guest, we have Miss Quincy Thomas. Yes, celebrity interviewer and owner of Studio Q. How are you doing?
And I had some good internships on paper, like B103 radio station, BET, Sony Music, Epic and Columbia Records. Because of my personality, he wanted me to interview DeBrat for his college show called Premiere TV.
So how did it come to be? How did you align to end up interviewing Whitney and getting to know her, and her ending up deeming you like the best interviewer that she's ever experienced? How did that all start? You got to tell the people.
Girl, listen.
Hello, my friends. Hello, I'm Alexandria Nicole, and I am super honored to be here today with our guest. We have Miss Quincy Thomas. Yes, celebrity interviewer and owner of Studio Q. How are you doing, Miss Quincy?
Girl, God is good.
Yes. All the time.
And all the time, God is good.
Yes. I'm so excited to have you here with us. Thank you so much for spending your time with us.
I'm honored to be here. I remember you from, I don't know if it was a year or two ago, but I remember interviewing you promote you on Studio Q back when I had my page. It's been taken, but you was there. Yeah. I had to start all over, but good. Listen, ain't nothing. I'm okay with starting over. I am.
That's right. That's where that ingenuity comes from, right? If you know you can do it once, you can do it again.
Thank you.
It's nothing.
What Denzel say? Fall down 7 times, get up 8?
I love it. So thank you so much for spending. So tell us about your journey as a celebrity interviewer and how you came to be that, and all the things about how you started on your path to owning Studio Q.
Girl, thank you for asking, because I'm always the one asking the questions.
So you are the one asking the questions, aren't you? We're turning the tables today.
I love it. I love it. I grew up in a very void of Black media. Like there was no Black radio. I was K through 12, white. Now, don't get me wrong. I had a ball because I was still me and I had fun, but I was a fly in the buttermilk, and there was no Black radio. There was no, only BET, MTV, Friday night videos. Right. So I grew up with a void of Black media. And so I went to a HBCU to fill that empty cup. Okay. And being there, I did internships. I got to listen to the radio for once, us pouring out of it. And it was June. I did several internships. And every internship, I should have known I was an entrepreneur there, because and I had some good internships on paper, like B103 radio station, BET, Sony Music, Epic and Columbia Records. But like, I never wanted to eventually work there because I worked there. You know what I mean? But I didn't know that meant I wanted to do my own thing. I just was like, this ain't it. This ain't it. This ain't it.
Isn't it funny how it's the ownership piece for us that we're missing is not connected to dots? You're like, no, but it doesn't ring true like that. You're just like, this doesn't feel right. But when you're the boss, you're like, this is it.
But I had no idea. I had no vocabulary for it, because I always thought I would just like work for some big, just something that I really love doing. But I never thought I would be like, doing my own thing. In junior year, I was working for a record label, and a friend of mine, his name is Chris. Shout out to you, Chris. For some reason, because of my personality, he wanted me to interview DeBrat for his college show called Premiere TV. And I was like, I work for a record label. I can give you some free music. But like, why you want me to interview? Well, I think that he talked to me for a whole evening to convince me. And I finally said, okay, fine. Whatever. He got my questions together. He sent me with a camera person. Like, I think I was dressed like DeBrat, like not on purpose. That's just how I dressed. Because it was the 90s.
Yeah. I love
baggy
that.
Clothes, hat to the back, And even though the interview was horrible in the sense that the lighting was off, girl, I told DeBrat, I'm sitting here with my favorite. And I was like, well, not my favorite. She was like, cut. person on the side feels special. I was like, you know what? You're right. Take two. You know, so I was my authentic self, but I wasn't a really good interviewer. It was my first time. But because of my connection to her, we were able to get a second interview, which turned out really, really well. So after that experience, I was bit.
Yes, you were bit by the interviewing bug. So what did you love most about it? Is it the conversing with people and seeing that people are just people regardless of the status and everybody has something to offer? What was it that drew you into the interviewing space?
I think the fact that I could be myself and connect with people. Yeah. And for whatever reason, God made people feel comfortable with me. And so I would always have a good conversation, and it would always include laughter. So when you can show up and your natural gifts actually serve the situation, what a blessing. And that's really what I took from that experience is I get to be myself, and that is bringing value. So
that's good, because this day and age, people feel like it's brave being your authentic self. Isn't that crazy to where just being who you are, the way that you are, is bravery? Is considered bravery because being authentic is such a rarity.
And it's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know. Maybe it was always like that, but we didn't have a microscope on everybody. You know what I mean? We didn't have cameras. We didn't have social media to see how people were showing up as other people instead of themselves. So I don't know what it is, but like, I don't know how to be anybody but me. You know, and look, in the words of Jennifer Lewis, sometimes it works, sometimes it don't work.
Sometimes you accept it, sometimes you're not. But I think that's the bravery piece, that you are putting yourself out there as your authentic self and ready to take either the acceptance or the rejection. But either way, you are not going to be stuffed into a box in order to be accepted. I think that's what makes it brave, really.
Amen.
If we can pinpoint. Yeah,
and that is so. And like, I started really early, like in high school, like because I loved Whitney Houston so much, and I was the president of the fan club and the only member. You
didn't make the club, you're the president and the sole member. Lord have mercy. How in the world?
I know, right? But I was, and I didn't look for your approval as I was walking down the hall singing I'm Your Baby Tonight, and I wanted to dance with somebody. I'm like, the bell has rung. Here's your 30-second concert. I walked down the aisles like I was Whitney. And then when the bell rung, I sat down and school started. But I wasn't ever looking for that kind of validation,
Right.
I've been cultivating being me for a long time.
And that's beautiful, because I am newer to the path of being my authentic self. There was a lot of people pleasing tendencies that I had, but I think that it's empowered me to be able to relate to people that's on that same path, because I can identify what it looks like, right? I know how it looks, I know how it feels, I know how it makes you feel bound within yourself and so overly consumed with the opinions of other people that you're not just willing to be you, do you, and live in your own greatness, right? So it's that making yourself small when somebody says to you, you're too much, and you think, oh, well, if I'm too much, then let me just shrink down a little bit so I'm just enough for that person. Honey, you're going to get every piece of Alexandria now, whether you like it or not.
But I love how you turned that insecurity or obstacle into a stepping stone. And it's wonderful that you lived in that space for a while, because it is so prevalent, And the last thing somebody who's still in that place wants to hear, I think it's great that I was there. Like, you know what I mean? That they relate to you, that what it feels like to people please. And you also know what it feels like when you've overcome that thing.
When you overcome it, how freeing it is. So it gives me the ability to be patient with them while they're in that part of that life, because I understand how it feels. You know what I mean?
Essentially, that's powerful.
You enslaved your own
powerful.
personality. It's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah. So tell me now, I had no idea that you were the sole member of a Whitney Houston fan club, and then ended up becoming friends with Whitney Houston. Let's look at the manifesting power through God in that one now. Yeah. So how did that come to be? How did you align to end up interviewing Whitney and getting to know her, and her ending up deeming you like the best interviewer that she's ever experienced? How did that all start? You got to tell the people.
Girl, listen, it was definitely manifestation, but I've loved Whitney since I was 12, and actually November 19th this year marks the 25th year that interview took place. And wow. It's been 25 years ago that interview took place. Yeah. And, I always wanted to meet Whitney, and what people may not be aware of is I actually met Whitney before that experience, but she didn't meet me. I met her. There's a difference, because I snuck backstage. Robin Crawford, who wrote the book and who was her friend and everything. I had met Robin at a concert, my first concert ever, Whitney concert at 16, looked in the tour book, and I was like, okay, that's the dancer, that's the music director, best friend. I'm going over there. Came with a group. I said, I'll see y'all in a minute.
I'm going backstage.
Yes. Well, they were by the mixing booth, which was like maybe 20 feet away from us. So I came with 3 girls from the basketball team that I played with. And I said, I'll be back. Girl, I went over there, I stayed over there for about half an hour. Okay.
Wow.
And I asked Robin, I was like, can I meet Whitney? Can I meet her? And she was like, well, she's not just my friend, she's my boss. And I said, okay, Robin. Well, what about some t-shirts? Can I get some t-shirts? Yeah, she gave me some t-shirts. She gave me and all the girls, she gave us 4 t-shirts. Now, I don't really think they deserved them, but I still gave them one. Because the work was on me.
Yeah, you the one putting in the work over there.
Yes. And my freshman year at Clark, this was like 2 years later, I went to a school in Atlanta, Clark Atlanta University. And Whitney was going to be there at a concert. Like, she was hosting, her and Dick Clark was hosting the passing of the Olympic flag from Barcelona to Atlanta, where the Olympics was going to take place in '96. So I convinced me and 2 other girls I just met, because I'm just fresh out of high school. It's a month there. We put on our church clothes. We got a clipboard. I said, we're going to be media. We're going to find our way backstage. Got backstage. Listen, saw Robin. I said, now, Robin, can I meet her now? And she was like, well, she right over there. I said, so are those bodyguards, ma'am. I'm going to need you to do a little bit more, Robin. We ain't got no t-shirts to give away this time. So she laughed, and she went and talked to Whitney, and Whitney came over to us and was like, how y'all doing, baby? She shook all of our hand. I had nothing to say. And after that, I said, this went way too fast.
Yeah.
I was one of probably a million people she shook hands with that night. Right. She don't know who I am. Right. And I said, that's when I took my message to God for the manifestation. And I literally laid out what I wanted, how I wanted to go. Listen, what necklace I wanted her to wear, and she wore it. Like, I was detailed with God. I wanted to make her laugh. I did. And I didn't know that was going to be on television. I just wanted an opportunity to be able to have the time to tell her how she influenced me, how she impacted me, and for her to be able to be in a space to listen. And I was watching TV, saw the MTV show Fanatic. I didn't quite like the name, because I didn't really even though I was a fanatic, I didn't want to be called one. I want to be called.
You didn't like the label of it.
Yeah, I didn't like that part. But I was like, and I'm not gonna let that stop me. So I made a tape, sent it, prayed over it. 4 months later, they came to Springfield, Illinois, my hometown, swished me up. And in the car, the producer, who was Black and female, shout out to Evelyn, she said, I know you're excited. And I know, because, I was crazy. I was like, oh my God. And she was like, but we sent Whitney a bunch of tapes, and Whitney picked yours. So she wants to meet you too. And that's what took my whole everything to another level. And so my only prayer the night before I met her was, God, please allow me, with all my nervousness, with all of this bigness, you know, because it was at NTV in New York, in Times Square, at the TRL studios when the TRL studios was popping, you know.
Yeah.
And it was Whitney TV day, you know, it was everything.
Oh my gosh.
And so I said, please allow me to be myself, because if Whitney is going to like me, back to the authenticity, I wanted her to like the real me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so, you know, and the rest, as they say, is history, girl.
Wow, that is a fantastic story. So I didn't realize that was your first meeting and that's how it came about. So, and I love that no matter where your journey has taken you, you have always kept God in the forefront, right? Because, you know, sometimes it takes a certain way to get to what it is that we want to get to. And yours was through media. So you love being your authentic self. You never wanted to be put in a box. And you knew that you didn't necessarily align with any of the places that you internshiped with. But that was because you were destined to be your own entrepreneur. So how long were you working in the corporate space where you were working with MTV and all these other companies before you were like, okay, I can do this?
Girl, when I moved to LA in 2000, and I think it was 2004. Yeah. I was working all kind of production jobs. You know, I worked for the Tyra Banks show. I worked for Divorce Court. I worked for all of these, like, you know, reality shows and different stuff. And what I quickly discovered was, oh, you're going to be working for 6 million hours a week for somebody else. If you're working 6 million hours a week, you can't like leave. They got everything on the set. They got food for you to, oh, you need a massage. We're going to bring the massage here. We got oh no, we're going to bring it. Like, no, don't, you're going to be here for 16 hours. Okay. We got everything you need. Even the actors and stuff, they got trailers. They don't want them leaving, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like, so then when I do have a day off, the only thing I can do is wash my clothes, get something to eat, and rest so that I won't die, to get back up and do it all over again for somebody else's show, which I'm sure at one point was their dream. And I said, so how am I going to get to my dream? And it couldn't be in that space because it was just too demanding. Yeah. So in 2012, I did my first red carpet and I just had to do it. But also, because I did not know how to transition from working for somebody else to working for myself, I became severely depressed. You can't tell it with the content that I got because I had enough in my tank to do the interviews, to do the research, to do the editing, and to do the posting. But what I didn't have, I couldn't network because I just didn't have the capacity to do that and that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because the networking, you know, it might be 1 out of 10 people that you connect with that can help you to the next level or that you can click with. But what about the 9 others that didn't go nowhere? I didn't have the kind of energy for that. I could only do one thing. And I remember my mom was like, well, where the money at? I was like, Mom, people don't pay for interviews. People don't do this. Because I did not know how to, I didn't know how to cultivate revenue streams. So all I knew how to do is try to be great at my craft. And so because of that, I have a bunch of interviews, but my depression showed up because if you look at all of those interviews I did, you really don't see me. You don't, you see a black, slate with a question. You don't even hear my voice because I just didn't have it. And I didn't want to be heard. I didn't want to be seen, but I was the reason why these interviews were great, but I couldn't show up. Girl, I was on a red carpet one time and they said, oh, who's Studio Q? Who you work for Studio Q? They had no idea that I was the Q in the studio. That's how invisible I was in my own brand.
Wow. So your first red carpet, was that when you were there representing Studio Q, your company at that point, but you were also operating from a place of depression. So how long?
There's not an interview I did probably in LA that I wasn't in some form of depression. It didn't, but you know, depression shows up in people differently. They could be smiling one day and commit suicide and unalive themselves, you know, the next day. Not that I was to that point, thank God, but yeah, like it. And that first red carpet was Whitney's last red carpet. And she hugged me 2 days before she passed. So it was definitely a sign that I was supposed to be there, because it was like a goodbye to a beautiful story that I had with her. And I felt like it was delivered directly from God, because I wasn't even supposed to be going. But so that was my first. My first was her last. And she only stopped for me and gave me the most. Whitney gives the best hugs. Okay, Whitney.
Now you have two favorite clips, and one of them is when you're saying, "Whitney, it's me," and she like pushes people out of the crowd to hug you. Was that the moment that you were talking about?
That's 2 days before she passed away.
Wow, no, Quincy. Oh my goodness.
It was February 9th, and she passed February 11th.
Wow, February 11th is my oldest daughter's birthday. That's crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So yeah, that's one of my favorite clips. And then the second one of my clips that I love of yours is this just a montage of people being like, "My God, you did your research. How do you know that?" It's just like bam, 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 like celebrity after celebrity after celebrity. Like, this is the best interview I've ever had. How did you even know that? Kind of looking around like, who is this woman talking to?
Because you really don't see me. You notice that you don't see me.
That's true, Quincy. That's true. Wow. So what did it take for you to overcome that space and for you to get out in the forefront again and really step into everything that you have to offer?
And day by day, step by step, and not giving up. Baby steps, and just going, people pointing out, where are you at? Or asking me like, well, who's Studio Q? Just little bitty things that alerted to me to how invisible. I mean, at first I was cool with it, but as time went on, obviously I was getting stronger and better. And it really, I would say the pandemic, 2020, I was numb, but 2021, because the whole world, had shut down, it also gave me an opportunity to reset.
Yes. Quincy, I have had so many people that I've talked to on here, off camera, that we all have this actual, like, we all feel like we have to be politically correct and honor the ones who lost their lives and their families that experienced that pain, right? Like, we have to acknowledge the downside of what COVID did. But for the most part, all of us appreciate that ability to just kind of slow down and have a moment of introspection and move away from the monotony of the day in and the day out of doing your work and going to work and operating your business. We really appreciate that time that it gave us to really look at ourselves, to reevaluate, to reprioritize all the things that it really allowed us to do, because it was imperative. I think it was imperative to the spirit of us as individuals to just sit down, look at our children, look at ourselves, look at our circumstances, look at our finances, evaluate what's important, what's not important. How am I spending my time? What do I need to do versus what have I been wasting my time with? All those things. Yes. So I appreciate you sharing that, because it is so true that 2020 was a time for us to reset. I think like it's just collective consciousness as human beings. I think it's God just said, y'all just need to sit down for this.
Yes. He Kendrick Lamar does. Sit down. Be humble.
Yes. Y'all get somewhere and pray. Jesus. I'm telling you,
it was like an etching sketch. It was like an etching sketch for me. Like, let's shake this thing up. Let's look at the past. And what do you want to do now? How do you want to go forward? And it's level. Like, it's level now. Like, you can pick and choose and decide. And so I started showing up like this. Like, this is big for me, just showing up just like this, because I wasn't even in my own interviews.
Oh, Quincy. Well, I look at you, and you're just gorgeous and got the most beautiful teeth. I'm just like, everybody needs to see you all the time because your energy.
Thank you.
When I first met you, your energy is one of the energies that transcends virtual. Like it just transcends technology. I can feel it. And I talked about you for days after we had our initial interview about how wonderful you were and like literally one of the best people that I've ever met. So you deserve to be seen. You deserve for people to bask in the glory that God has spoken over you and your spirit and your soul and your business and your life. You're fantastic.
Thank you so much. And words of affirmation is my love language. So I have to remember to smell the perfume. Don't drink it.
Oh my goodness. You are fantastic. So with everything that you have overcome and all of the obstacles, what advice would you give another entrepreneur that is going through the trenches, is enduring the struggles and, you know, doing the research and operating a business? They're working on the business and, you know, they're in the business, don't have the time to work on the business and everything you have to deal with when you are building a brand, when you are building a legacy, something that's impactful. What advice would you give for them to just have them keep going?
Amen. Amen. Thank you for that question. Well, you know, one of the things that I did for my mental health was I got therapy.
Yes.
I think next month, well, tomorrow's next month. I've been in therapy for 2 years and I'm very, you know, because I've interviewed a few therapists. So I'm just happy to be able to say that out loud and how helpful it's been because, you know, you can, talk to friends and family and loved ones. But it's also important for you to talk to people who have tools, who went to school for this thing. You know what I mean? So they're not like, I know that's right, girl. No, they're like, here go some bullet points. You know?
Let's get strategic about this. Okay. So we got this issue. Here's how we're gonna address this. Right. As opposed to So it is nice to have a community, somebody that you can talk to, but at the same time, it is important to take care of our mental health and have somebody in our corner that can help us with tools. Yeah. So you feel like that's imperative to your journey. It's helped you.
Yeah, because when I was depressed, and you know, this was I always talk, right? But I was isolated. You get what I mean? So I didn't have like this. So, you know, talking about relationships, like in networking, that's very important in business, right? But because I was depressed, I'm sure I left a lot of things on the table because I wasn't able to use those muscles. So also, if you're in isolation, if you can't afford therapy or you can't get that, try to reach out to some like-minded people, some people that love you to get you out of your head, that you can talk to, you know, because that's one of the things that hurt me was not being because I'm such a talker. So to not be able to have the relationships or the people to talk about what I was going through, you know, it made it worse, I think, you know, and it prolonged it. And don't give up and honor like those little steps. Like, you know, sometimes it's just getting out of the bed. Sometimes it's just doing that one thing and be your own best friend. You know what I mean? The thing that you would give them, whoever them is, give it to you. Give it to you. Have your own back. You know what I mean? Speak life into yourself because all, you know, I saw there's this like video where Monica's like, don't fumble people of value. You know, you never know if you're ever going to meet a person like that ever in life. Some people are once in a lifetime people, but you know, but you know who don't need to fumble you? You. Bump them. You can't control them. Look in the mirror and don't fumble her. Don't fumble him, you know? And so I would say therapy, do not isolate yourself. Honor the little steps. If you're not where you want to be, honor the fact that you're not where you used to be. And the last thing is continue, like execute. Don't stop. Even if it's a little step, it's further than you were yesterday, you know?
Oh, that's so good. And this is wonderful confirmation. It's so true though. We have to honor ourselves. I was talking to my mentor yesterday and telling her, and this, one of the things that she said, one of the greatest takeaways was, she said, Alexandra, you're constantly pouring into other people. You have to allow somebody to pour into you. She said, you need to build a circle of women around you so that you can have someone filling your cup, because you are so intentional about being other people's circles and being that person for them. Who's taking care of you? Mm-hmm. And now you're sitting here and saying the exact same thing about your network and how you have to take care of you and how you have to be the advocate that you are for other people to yourself. So that's a confirmation.
Yeah, because until you find that circle of women who will pour into you in the ways that make you sing in the key of Whitney, you need to do that for yourself. You know what I mean? Because what if it takes a year to find that group? What you gonna do in that year? Just pour into other people while you go dry? So I would say the first cup of whatever you got to give needs to go to you.
Wow. Yes. Now listen, that's a mic drop moment. That's it. Interview over. How fantastic, Quincy. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, with our audience. You are such a blessing. You are wonderful. Tell the people how they can reach you, Quincy.
Girl, listen, I'm all over Beyonce's internet, Blue Ivy's internet, as at Quincy, QUENCIE, and at Studio QTV. I'm on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube with those two handles, Quincy and Studio QTV. Yeah.
Absolutely. You guys check out Quincy, support her in every way possible. Watch some of her amazing videos, some of her interviews. She really is an amazing woman, and what the work that she does, it blesses me every time I see it. I get a nice giggle, I get filled up, I get the opportunity to bask in this woman's and I want you to do the same thing. So thank you so much, Quincy. You were such a blessing. I love you. Thank you for spending time with us. I appreciate you.
Listen, I love you back, and I'm honored to be on your platform. So thank you.
Thank you, darling. Bye-bye. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.